Well, hello and welcome to Dragonheart. The season is over, a sad ending, but now at least the Rob and Ryan reign can really begin. Big news from the retained list, of course. Bobby Grant's not coming back. Also, well, the end of a dynasty for Carrington. We have a missing Pearson, and even for the young Scouse striker, the Fat Lady sang. Documentary crew at least got to have their own red wedding to film. Dean Keates also has left. There's not many people left in the building now. We'll be talking about all these events and of course the disappointment of Dagenham. So, what are you waiting for? It's time for Dragonheart.
I'm John Ponticelli and you're listening to the Dragonheart radio show.
Hi and welcome to Dragonheart. I'm Mark Griffiths. He's Chay Long. I'd always point the wrong way when I tried to point, and I deliberately pointed the wrong way this time thinking it would work, and it didn't. Chay, firstly, on behalf of all of us, congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. A lot of sleepless nights, but not necessarily because of the new baby Wesley. It's because of Wrexham's been keeping me up from that performance last Saturday.
Yeah, we need burping, don't we? I think.
Yeah.
But we'll have a chat about that Dagenham game. We'll chat about the managerial change. We'll chat about the retained list this week. Let's be honest, we're talking about all the obvious things. So let's get cracking, shall we? Dagenham. Oh, that was heartbreaking. That really, real shame. I thought
It was an obvious thing to say, but real missed opportunity. And Dagenham have cost us a playoff position this year, haven't they? With the two games combined, really. The home game, if we would have held on, we would have been all right. And I was looking at the statistics leading into this game. Draw probably would have been okay in most combinations of results. It wasn't for us, was it?
Exactly right. There were so many combinations, like I said, and permutations if we drew, and we were a bit unlucky. I mean, don't get me wrong, the performance was poor, but to get a draw at Dagenham and not get through to the playoffs, there was only about a 20% chance of that happening, so that is unlucky.
Yeah.
In terms of permutations that we talked about last week, I don't know, it was a shame. I mean, Dagenham, I think, are a good team. They're in good form.
Yeah.
Signing off in front of fans, it was always possible that could happen. And yet, in the middle of the season, a point at a team in that sort of form away from home would be a cracking result. And yet, it's very easy to forget that we got a draw there because it so felt like a defeat.
It did, didn't it? Well, it was a defeat, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, that first half performance was pretty bad. The players didn't really seem up for it, did they, at all?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like saying that, but yeah, there was no real standout performances from Wrexham. There was no one who come in and really grab the game by the horns and win it. But I know. I don't know. It's a real sad day because I think we deserved that. We deserved the playoff spot.
Yeah, I think over the course of the season, we've only been out in the playoffs for 2 weeks since February. It's cruel to drop out then. And I thought in terms of performances, maybe the best performances were the centre-backs, actually. There was some, players further forwards were struggling to make passes stick, were I think, snatching at things. I think there was anxiety. But the first couple of minutes, we started like a house on fire, Pearson at the bar.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is perfect. We're going to do these. But once we lost that grip on midfield, I mean, they didn't actually make many chances, Dagenham. I would say that. They looked threatening, but they didn't make all that many chances. I think what they did do really well was they kept their wing-backs, the battle of wing-backs was won by them because our wing-backs were stuck quite deep and they were penning them back. And I felt that because they stayed quite wide, they were able to get those overloads working quite well. Our wing-backs would come out wide with theirs. And then there was a lot of space between them and the centre-backs. And a midfielder, often Balanta, would sort of drop in there. And then they've got an extra man there, and a striker can run across, another midfielder can go in there. and we were a man short, and Balanta was pulling the strings and just pushing those cute little passes down those channels, and that's where a lot of their chances came. Or the centre-backs, they did the Sheffield United thing, didn't they, where the wing-back stayed wide, and then the centre-back on that side would overlap. That was how the goal came about, wasn't it? It was a centre-back who got down and hit the goal line and pulled it in. So they were clever. I thought they created those overloads, and I thought, although, you know, to be fair, I'm not a football manager, I thought that when that started happening and we started to concede chances, or at least they were getting into good positions to put crosses in, I thought maybe we ought to have just said to the wing backs, defend narrow. Let's just defend our box.
Yeah.
Let's let them put crosses in, because we got 3 really good centre backs who were playing well. McCallum's dangerous, so I accept that's a reason not to do it. But there was a sense a goal was coming, even if they weren't really making that many good chances, because they were getting around our defence and pulling us out of shape. And I wondered if we needed to just do that and say, okay, we're a good defensive side. We can defend our box. Let's just do that and get through this period, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree, to be fair. And what did you make of the change at the start of the starting lineup? Horsfield coming in. I thought that was, at the time, I thought it was a sensible thing, because I think our midfield looked quite lightweight with Harris in the middle. So before the game, I was quite happy Horsfield was coming in. Jarvis wasn't starting, because it was going to be a cagey game. An experienced player who was more defensive minded. Thought that at the time was a good change, but didn't really work out, did it?
No, we talked about this, didn't we? I think the Saturday before, the idea that if you want to play a midfield, you know, if Harris is missing, and you want to play a midfield that's got a bit of bite about it, probably your only like-for-like alternative is Horsfield. But it didn't work out, and that's a shame. I didn't think it was a crazy decision. I thought it was quite a logical decision, like you say. Because when we've played Rutherford, Davis and Jarvis together as a 3, we've looked great going forward sometimes, but we've also sometimes looked a bit like we can't defend teams going through. It's like Kiwami did for Kings Lynn, where he just ran right through the heart of the defence. Harris was on the pitch then, I admit, but was also carrying an injury. So, you know, I think that probably, you know, sort of explains it in a way. So, I totally understand the logic against a team like Dagenham who are flying and who clearly got good movement and good attacking options to be looking to have a player like that sitting in front. We missed Harris a lot. I mean, I'm feeling sorry for Horsfield, to be honest. I don't think there was... I don't know. I wouldn't particularly call him out over the performance, just that, it
didn't really do anything, did he, really? He was a bit...
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel bad for him, and he had to come off half time as well, and Rutherford come on, didn't he? And how long was he on for? It was
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
11.
Yeah.
11
minutes, and it was a reckless challenge, wasn't it? And I think with the fans and everything, he's going to give reds for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't argue with the decision. It's just such a sad way for his Wrexham career to end, because he's been such a fantastic servant of the club, and I mean that word, servant, more than he normally would. I mean, he's always put himself on the line for the club, and I think, to be fair to him, I mean, it cost us that we went down to 10 men. There's so long left, no question. But I don't like the idea that people will sort of attack him for it. Let's be honest, he's not normally a player who goes into tackles like that, and he's gone into that because he's wholehearted. He thinks that ball's there to him. It's a poor tackle. It's a red card. I'm not arguing any of that. The referee was absolutely 100% right. And the Dagenham players had the right. They were very angry, and I get that absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know, it isn't born from him just thinking, "I'll just whack him and ruin our season." It's born from him thinking, "If I win this tackle on the edge of the area, we might score." That's where that tackle came from. He got it wrong, and we paid the price. But it's a sad way for his Wrexham career to end, like I say.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Mark. I think it was after looking at the retain list, it was a sad game to finish a lot of Wrexham players' careers, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It was just so deflating, wasn't it? And I thought if we would have got the playoffs, that's brilliant. We got something to build on for next season, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it really hasn't worked out. And we'll look back. I think we'll look back on this season as a big disappointment, won't we? I think.
Oh yeah, a missed chance, I think, in a lot of ways. But it was the frustrating thing is, like I said, it feels like a defeat. It wasn't actually a defeat. I mean, Ponticelli gets his goal. The last 20 minutes, they straight after Rutherford sending off, they put some pressure on us. But when you actually look at it, they had shots from outside the box. They weren't actually causing too much problem. And then when it came to the last 20 minutes, they created nothing until the very end when we overcommitted and they could have scored. And we were making chances. Angus had that shot saved by the keeper. Ponticelli's goal was well offside, but well, it was given.
Yeah.
And then, the painful thing for me, when we had the 3-on-1 break after Ponticelli scored. And, I mean, I think, to be fair to Angus, at the time I was spitting feathers. I was like, but just square it, for God's sake. Ponticelli and Jarvis are marked in the box. Just give it. We're in the playoffs here. When you look back at it, if he didn't play it quite early, that the angle was gone for the pass, and I appreciate that. It became a difficult pass to make. And when you actually look at it again from the reverse angle, it's a hell of an interception by a defender, because his weight of the body is running towards goal. Angus has cut it behind him, but he's managed to stretch out his foot while off balance in the other direction and get a foot on it and stop it going through to Ponticelli. So it is a hell of a good piece of defending, but if he could just have made that pass, we probably would be preparing for a game on Saturday. Gussie.
And if we didn't concede a last-minute goal against them early on the season, we would have been preparing, But there's been quite a few of these games this season where we should have won and we haven't. So plenty of games this season where we have won from losing positions. It's very up and down season. Yeah. And I think this squad deserved playoff. The quality of a playoff side. We had a fantastic defense. For me, we will look back as a real missed opportunity, but really in the long run, I think Keates has done a pretty okay job this season, from where we were last season to where we've ended up now, being a really competitive side in this league. So hats off to him as well.
Yeah, we've come a long way, to be fair. It's funny, I mean, it's natural as well, like you say, to look back on Lake's goals and things like that, Torquay's goal as well. In a way, I sort of don't look at it that way, because probably every team's got, that sort of thing happening.
That's true.
I would say, just to be a hypocrite, we are unlucky, I think, that when we were beating Kings Lynn, all the results going our way, and then all those teams got late goals, and all the results changed against us. Because when you think about it, I don't want to make excuses saying that they were like only 20% of the permutations if we drew that meant we wouldn't go through to the playoffs. What's really frustrating to me is that it wasn't just the last Saturday when everything else went exactly wrong. It was also the Saturday before, which we could easily have been virtually in the playoffs at the end of the Kingsland game. And for 2 weekends in a row, everything went against us. That frustrates me. And the other thing that frustrates me, I suppose, if I'm honest, is that, you're going to get late goals. You're going to get things happen in matches, and all teams do. I don't believe in the idea that now it equals itself out. Why? Why would everything equal itself out? That's who's decided that? But I do think that we've paid the price for not taking chances when we've been strong in games. Number of games where we've started well, not got a goal, and ends up drawing or losing. Number of games. Yeah, exactly.
The away Notts County game, we should have had that game buried within the first 10 minutes.
And then games like the Notts County home game and the Maidenhead game, where we've gone behind and we've made chances and taken none of them. That's what's cost us. Plus my eternal bugbear. The one silver lining from last Saturday, at least Eastleigh didn't go through, because they were horrible in both our games. And in both those games, the referees made horrific match-changing decisions against us. And I sort of don't want to look at late goals and things like that and say, look at those points we should have had. But I do feel we should have had 4 points more off Eastleigh. I mean, the penalty at Eastleigh is a joke. We'd have won that 1-0. the red card for Kelleher, and then the non-penalty when Records fouled in the box are both ludicrous decisions. I mean, for me,
But
that is something that didn't have to happen.
Yeah, that's football, unfortunately, isn't it? It was a frustrating day, but hey ho, we've got some new owners.
Yeah,
we should have a bigger budget next. We should have a bigger budget this season. So let's look forward to the future because it's going to be exciting times at the race courses.
Yeah, absolutely. And so maybe we should move on now, and after this, have a chat about the managerial situation.
I'm Luke Young, and you're listening to the Dragonheart radio show.
Yeah, so we didn't get in the playoffs, and soon afterwards, Dean Keates was no longer Wrexham's manager. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I've said all season that I respect Keates as a manager, and I like him, and think he's got a lot of good qualities. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that my mind has changed on that now. But the decision has been made, and now we're looking for a new manager. Keates has served us very well as a manager and a player, and he has to go with our well wishes, doesn't he, Jay?
Oh, 100%. I was obviously gutted when I found out that he was going, but tell from his final interview that, yeah, it's over for him. You could tell, couldn't you, straight away, really. But yeah, honestly, well wishes. I think he's done a good job this season. A lot of fans will disagree with us, but I think me and you have actually consistent throughout the whole season, throughout all our podcasts. We can look back at them, and we've been really positive about him and the system we're playing when many people haven't been. So yeah, I really hope I don't think he'll have a problem finding another job at National League or 2 level. I wish him the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and what comes next? Starting the process now, looking for a new manager, and well, I've got to be honest, Che. I think it's very different from what we've experienced the last 10 or so years, because the trust, much as I was always a supporter of the trust, the thing about having so many fans involved in that process was it was definitely a leaky process when we appointed managers, and often a lot of information was coming out. Not always, but often. This time, I reckon we haven't got that. So whereas in the past, the media or the press might be able to go after people and get little tidbits of information, I'm not convinced that anyone knows anything that's going on now, because it's a very tight, small group of influential people who are actually making this decision.
Yeah, and we're not going to find out, are we? Which is crazy. I think it's going to be hard for a lot of Wrexham fans to actually not find out any snippets anymore, any leaks, isn't it? It's going to be hard. It's going to be quite funny, but
gossip withdrawal symptoms.
Exactly. But now we've got these new owners, and I'm sure they'll find the best option for us. I wouldn't probably look at Sky Bet and think any of them, I bet list, and think any of them are actually coming in. But I think I do trust the guys in charge, and I hope the guys and woman in charge, and they will pick the right person.
Yeah, only a fool would look at the odds for the new manager. You got the odds for the new manager there, haven't you, Jay?
Oh, I certainly have. The front runner is Michael Flynn, who just got Newport's the playoff final, didn't he? Yeah, and then there's a dispute, isn't he, apparently, with the director of football, as I understand it. I mean, he's certainly an impressive figure. I just think, I may look wrong here when one of the names you say gets the job, but I kind of feel like a lot of these lists are not based on inside info as much as putting 2 and 2 together. So, like, Flynn's at a Welsh club. The bookie think Wales is just one little village. So Flynn's going to have a love for Wrexham somehow and a desire to come to Wrexham. Obviously, Brian Flynn's his dad. But, I think that, a lot of this putting 2 and 2 together makes 5. Yeah.
And also the
But-
bookies are covering their backsides, because if there's movements by people to put money on somebody, or if they think there might be, they've got to slash the odds to make sure they don't take a bath over it.
Yeah,
You don't see
exactly.
a poor bookie, do you?
You know, Clough's obviously coming, isn't he? Because
Oh, yeah.
Fleur's worked with him for so long and he's managed Burton in the past. So, you know, that's the obvious one as well, isn't it?
Well, the leader,
And Mark Hughes.
the leader hung their hat on Clough straight away, which was interesting. But I really don't think there's any leads coming out to suggest it myself, apart from, like I said, that coincidence of working under Fleur Robinson. But Clough has got a job at the moment. I know he can pay compensation, but I'm not convinced by that one. I don't know. Mark Hughes, well, I mean, obviously, if you're an international manager who's spent pretty much his entire managerial career either managing a national team or in the Premier League, clearly what you really want to do is get some 5th Division football in your blood. It's a no-brainer.
Chris Coleman, he's on the list as well, you know.
Who's that?
Chris Coleman's on the list as well.
Again, Chris Coleman. Yeah, how can I recreate those heady days of a European Championship semi-final? How can I get those, those times at the Anuessa with Real Sociedad back? Oh yeah.
Freezing cold sleet on a Tuesday night.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be those two now, isn't it? Now we've said that.
Or do you know what's even a funnier one? And he's 22 to 1. Sam Ricketts. Imagine that.
Well, Sam Ricketts. I mean, he'd be welcome back with open arms, wouldn't he? Thank you, Nick. That's brilliant.
There's also a few I've seen on this list. Robbie Fowler, Harry Kewell, and Bellamy.
I mean, I suspect Bellamy is the Welsh thing, although he was a well thought of youth coach, and he was talked about when we appointed. Was it Keates we appointed? I think it might have been, or Hughes. But then he did have some problems then. So I don't know. I think that Welsh thing might be.
He's at Anderlecht now, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Yeah,
but
I'd take him.
Yeah. Who are the other ones you just said? Oh, Kewell. Yeah.
And Robbie Fowler.
Yeah. I mean, again, whether it's just looking at names. I mean, the appointments of Fleur Robinson, to me, suggests that rather than go for names, they're looking at people's backgrounds and what fits in with their approach. Which is why, and by the way, I'm not trying to say this will happen, because it won't, because he's got a job, but, like Danny Cowley, that sort of looking at the actual philosophy of a manager, looking at what they want to do on the pitch, what they want to do with the infrastructure. That's what they're going to look at, not, oh, that man's famous. I mean, let's be honest, as you say, McElhenney and Reynolds are new to football, so they're not going to be wowed by a famous name. Being Brian Clough's son means nothing to them. So I assume they'll be looking at qualities rather than someone off the gravy train or someone with a name. I would assume.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, us as fans, we can speculate as much as we want, and it doesn't make a difference. We don't have a say. So whoever the club appoint will be the right person. And one thing I want to say is, no matter what, because a lot of fans really, really were anti-Keates last season. Let's say no matter what, because they made a noise and they made a big part on Keates leaving, in my opinion. I think we all have to back the manager no matter what, even if it's not going smoothly in the first few games of the season. We will all have to get behind this new manager.
100%. I mean, it's exciting. But we've not got to just take a sort of entitled attitude that, oh well, now we've got money, we'll just go straight up and everything's fine. And if we don't win every match, we've got to have a go. We've got to pull together now. There's been a lot of talk about community around the club, and it's time to show that we're a community and actually pull together. And when things go a bit wrong, just keep pulling together rather than, sort of attack. Because, like you say, a factor in Keates' departure surely was that there was an atmosphere created by some people. Well, we don't want that happening again straight away if we have 3 games without a win.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want to become the non-league Arsenal or Celtic when things aren't going right. The fans spit their dummy out
Yeah,
and go for change all the time.
yeah,
We want to be a club who has a nice long-term solid manager who's going to get us into the football as soon as possible. And if that takes not this season, next season, you have to really, really stick with this person.
yeah, absolutely right. I'm just disappointed that Robbie Savage isn't on that list. He's always on the list, isn't he? Every time the Wrexham job comes up, Robbie Savage.
Oh, well, no, he's not.
I know he's
He
got that
isn't.
whole Macclesfield thing, but that wouldn't stop him, would it? I don't know.
Tony Pulis, mate.
He is.
Yeah, Tony Pulis, 3-1.
Wow. This is the first time in ages that Johan Cruyff hasn't been on the list, quite frankly. He used to be linked to every job, didn't he?
Yeah, 100%. Oh, Zidane. We could get Zidane.
Oh, of course, Zidane's available. It's obvious, isn't it? Yeah, totally. And Gary Brabin. There's Jimmy Harvey and Gary Brabin. They used to be the ones that were brought up.
Oh, he's on the list.
Where are they now? It's shocking. What's going on? I don't know. All the old favourites. Bring back.
But yeah, it's going to be fun, isn't it? It's exciting times, really. Looking for a new manager. It's going to be an announcement when he or maybe she gets announced.
Well, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Yeah. And it was sad that Humphrey Carr had to come out to actually make a statement about people not being abusive. It links in nicely to your point about Keates. You got people abusing somebody and they haven't even been appointed, and possibly have got no interest and have not been on the club's minds. But it was depressing to see that statement had to be made. I was very glad he made it, because that's not what this club should be about. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's inevitable now that women's football is starting to get much more of the respect it deserves, and it's fantastic to see what's happening with our women's team. And I think it's only a matter of time before a professional men's club appoints a female manager now. I think if you'd asked me about a year ago, I'd have said there were too many obstacles, unjustified obstacles, but sadly, no club would take the punt. I think they will now. But I think the danger is going to be everyone's going to claim it's a gimmick unless it works.
Yeah.
And eventually it will work, because a woman manager who is qualified is going to be just as good as a male manager who is qualified. And so, but by the same token, most men fail as managers. Jobs end in defeat. I love that Marcelo Bielsa quote. I probably said this before. He says that whenever he comes to a new club, he shakes the hand of the chairman, he looks into his eyes, and he thinks, I am looking into the eyes of the man who will sack me. And that's how it goes in management. There's rarely a happy ending. There's not many Alex Fergusons. So, if women managers come in and fail, they'll get then labelled as a failure and it was all a gimmick, whereas men don't get that. But eventually, I think that soon we will see female managers in. I'm not saying with us necessarily, but we will see.
We have to respect the women's game as well. You look at, is it Emma Hayes, Chelsea's manager?
Yeah.
For women's. She was offered the Wimbledon job, wasn't she, so long ago? And she said, no, it's a step down. I'm in Champions League football. Why would I step down to a League One club because it's the man's game, So I think because we're linked with a female, the female manager may not want to take the job, because why would you want to step down to the National League if you're managing a top Premier League side?
Yeah.
That's just my opinion anyway.
I must say, I do like that point. Yeah, absolutely right. The sort of arrogant patriarchy attitude of, well, gosh, a woman manager, get a job with a man's team. Oh, that's got to be a step up. But yeah, you're playing in the Champions League, like you say, playing at the top level. Yeah. Is it a step up? No. I feel with hindsight, realising now as we talk like this, I wish I'd put a bit more in about the fact that Wrexham's women's team have successfully applied for the new second tier of Welsh football. And I think that might be something we should explore a bit more in the coming weeks. But I will say, when the owners came in and put money into the women's team and showed that was going to be a priority, I was very happy, because Wrexham's a big town in the Welsh context. And why shouldn't we be able to be a dominant force in women's football? Women's football in Wales is still, I would say, at an early, not fully developed stage. Why can't we strike out and establish ourselves as a very, very serious presence in the Welsh women's game, and therefore a regular presence in the European women's game?
Well, yeah, it's probably going to be the likely way to get Wrexham back into Europe, isn't it? So,
Unless you
you would say sorry.
Unless we write a song.
Yeah, exactly. So I 100% agree that women's game should get the same amount of coverage as the man's game, but it's just building that popularity and building the team up to the point where people are going to be interested in watching the game, isn't it?
Exactly. So, who's going to be Wrexham's next manager? Come on. Sideline.
Zidane.
Excellent. Pochettino for me, all the way.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe Zidane and Pochettino as his assistant.
Nice. That sounds like the obvious choice. Brilliant.
Yeah.
After this, we'll have a think about which players that they've got from the squad of last year to actually play with.
I'm Reece Johnson, and you're listening to the Dragonheart radio show.
Right, now then, the retained list came out, and, well, I mean, clearly we have now got to say goodbye to a lot of significant players, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So, I mean, firstly, we have lost some key players. I mean, Mark Carrington has gone. Shame to see him. 8 years of service. He's been fantastic for the club, hasn't he?
Yeah, real club legend in my opinion. He's been a quality player when we've been a poor side.
Yeah.
So you could tell it. You could tell him, can you put the goalkeeper gloves on and go in today? He would, wouldn't he? And he'd try his best. The position on the pitch he won't play. He wears the shirt with real pride, and for me, a club legend and probably just a testimonial.
I've got to say, for me, the measure of the man is that he often, when we were playing badly, he was often our best player because he still kept to his standards. I particularly remember a game we lost at Solihull. It was the one where Manny Smith got injured. We were awful. It was a horrible game. And the one player whose performance was up to standard was Carrington. Well, fullback was just rock solid, used the ball really well. And I just thought that sums him up. That, you know, it's just that no matter what position you put him or what situation the game is, he's able to get on with his job and do a good job. And I've always admired Carrington for that.
Yeah, I think you speak on behalf of all of the fans when you say that.
Rutherford, I mean, what a wholehearted servant of the club here. I've said that phrase again.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness me. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to know the stats on ground covered because that guy's. You should give him a job making ordnance survey maps, I reckon, because he would no stone left unturned.
You know, heart on his sleeve as well. Really tries his best for the club, and he's had periods this season of playing consistently. But then when he's been asked to play, he's come in and he's done a great job. And it's a crying shame that he finished his Wrexham career red card, really, because I don't think that reflects his career at Wrexham at all.
It wasn't the first time he got sent off for Wrexham, but it was the first time he got sent off for Wrexham, and we didn't then try to bring a substitute on for him.
I remember that.
Yeah. And it nearly worked. That's how you get a match declared void. He was I say flexible as well, because he could play in a few different positions. And although he didn't score that many goals, they were beauties. I remember the goal he scored was his second game for us at Guiseley, injury time curler from outside the box to win the match. Oh, man.
Amazing.
And he used to love scoring against Solihull for some weird reason. So 7 goals came against Solihull. Lobs from at the edge of the area, all sorts of lovely good finishes. Fair play to him.
Love it. Yeah, thanks for his service as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then Jay Harris, of course, a player who's hit the heights in terms of football in the National League. I mean, he's over the 2 spells, he's shown terrific commitment, hasn't he?
Yeah, and just look at the amount of appearances he's had for the club. He's a real battler. He's like a little pit bull, isn't he? On the pitch, he's up and down. He's having to go at the refs, and yeah, scored good goals for us. And it's just again, it's sad to see him go as well. I think he's one of the players that are a real identity with the club, if you get what I mean.
Well, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, because a key thing with him, and to be fair, of all 3 that we've mentioned, is that desire to demand performances from the players around them, to set your own standards and expect other people to live up to them. And Harris is very much like that. He will beside you if you're playing alongside him and you don't meet the standards he thinks you should be hitting. And that's a good attitude to have in a team. I think as well, people naturally, because he's such a fierce tackler and a fierce competitor, want to pigeonhole him as a sort of scrapping midfielder, which he certainly is, and tend not to recognise his creative qualities.
Yeah.
Probably got the best range of passing at the club, I would say, and is, as we've seen in recent weeks, very good at driving the team forwards when we need that. So yeah, he's a fine player for the club, isn't he?
Yeah, 100%. And now I think the other 2 that were really shocking, I think for a lot of Wrexham fans, were Kelleher and Vassell for many reasons, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly had good campaigns. They've certainly shown their qualities. I guess if the logic is that we are going to be recruiting players we expect to be then taking us straight on to the top of League 2, then okay, maybe they've decided that they can bring in players who can do that more readily. But certainly we should thank Kelleher and Vassell. I mean, as I've said before, Vassell's ability to outpace any striker has always been a regular pleasure for me. It always happens in the first quarter and hour at the racecourse, doesn't it? They play the ball in behind, their quick lad gets after it, and Vassell would just ease past him, run out for a goal kick, and he didn't try it again. It was great. And Kelleher, the cork wall, mini carry, good wholehearted scrapper who, would defend his area well, I thought. So I think both of them should be patted on the back, I think, for their efforts.
Oh, 100%. I think Kelleher as well, is, even despite his size, actually really good on the ball as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Two really good centre halves, and yeah, thanks very much to both of them for their service this season. I also wouldn't be surprised if you see them signing for full league clubs. They're that good.
Both good centre backs.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I've got to say, I mean, as well, I feel sad for James Horsfield, because when he came on loan the season before last, he was clearly a high-quality player. I just kept saying all the time, he's clearly not a National League player. He's better than that. And that horrible injury that he got, I mean, obviously set him back enormously, and that's a real shame. I really hope he's able to get back to that level, because he would be an asset to a football league team if he's able to do that. I don't think he never really managed to this season, though. He filled in well at centre back, didn't he? But I'm sad. I think he's a good player, but I think that injury has affected him this year, I think.
Yeah, he's a very good utility player. I thought he was really good to have in the squad this season, because he would, he'd come in and he'd fill in, wouldn't he? And sad to see him go as well. I honestly, a lot of people's reactions are like, oh yeah, they'll just leave. But again, at the end of the day, people are losing their jobs, and they're not on the best money. They're not on this glitz and glamour money like the Premier League. These players lose their jobs. That they've got to try and make money somehow, haven't they? So I think it's sad seeing people lose their jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel sorry for Sang, Now, don't get me wrong. If we're looking to move forwards and bring in a squad of proven quality, Sang would certainly be a punt. But he showed he might have something, I think, in what we saw of him. And, I feel, sympathetic to him. I really hope he gets picked up and given an opportunity with a club where he can get some regular football and develop. Because I just felt, looking at him, yeah, he's got something. It's not there yet. And I think he needs maybe matches at maybe Conference North level just to actually getting goals under his belt, getting regular minutes and building up his experience. But I felt you could see something in Sang. I'm not saying that we ought to keep him, but he was, he was bought in odd circumstances, wasn't he, really? But I felt he's got something about him, I felt.
Yeah, and maybe do well at a club like Honest Key, a Welsh Premier League team or something. He come in and he played. Oh, I just don't think he's. I think if we were at the WST budget, he'd be a good asset to have in and around the squad. But we're really pushing for that football league now. If we have this big budget that's being banded around, so again, sad to see him go, but I'm sure he'll find a club somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely, I'm sure. And then the other two players who were invited in, when we were restricted with what strikers we could get, Keanu Marsh-Brown and Goldon Matayo, they will get a chance to prove themselves in pre-season. So that's a good opportunity for them. I mean, you certainly, a fair play to Matayo. He's a trier, isn't he? I mean, he battles like hell, doesn't he?
I think with Matayo, I don't think he's the most technically gifted of footballers, but he's a physical beast, which I think is to have at this level.
Yeah.
Someone to pump the ball, to hold up for your Ponticellis or your Dior Angus's. I think he's obviously a very hard worker. He's physically a beast. Yeah, I think that it's good to give him another chance. And I think Keanu Marsh-Brown obviously has quality because he's an international footballer. I've seen that much of him, but I think he deserves another chance too.
Well, Marsh-Brown's interesting, isn't he? Because he has been outstanding at this level previously. He has done okay in the Football League previously. And I think maybe there's a hope that his potential could be realised, if they can really get him going. And my understanding is that all three of them trained well and looked very motivated, the three lads who were brought in. So, fair play to be given an opportunity there. I'm glad as well that Kwame Thomas is going to be given that opportunity to prove his fitness. I think that's important. I think that he was terrific for us this season, and I think he deserves every opportunity to. I wouldn't like to see him leave in the circumstances of, you did well for us, but you got injured, so goodbye. We need to see what we can do with him, because if he can come back to his previous level, he'll be very tasty.
Yeah, I think I think if he carried on the way he was, I think he would have got Player of the Season this year if he didn't get injured. I think he was absolutely unplayable at times. So I'm really happy. I think if they didn't make that decision, also a lot of fans would have been very angry, because there is a real player in Kwame. Let's hope he recovers from his injury well. And imagine having Goldon Matayo up front together. It'd be two colossuses, wouldn't it?
You wouldn't want to be a centre back, would you? Just rolling away at you. Goodness me. Who knows what we might bring in as well. So,
and this is the thing, I think.
Back in Fenny, we're playing between them.
I think this is the thing. I think it's okay to be upset with the players that have left. Let's hope we bring in some real quality. Yeah,
exactly. The proof of any retained list is what you replace players with.
Yeah,
I wrote in the column in the Leader this week talking about exactly that, saying how we had Craig Falconbridge in the turn of the century. 3 seasons in a row, he was our top scorer, and he was a good, wholehearted player. And throughout the last season, which was the season when Dennis Smith came in and we got relegated, the talk was Wickham are going to buy him, we were all desperate for him not to go. And he did go in the end. And Smith didn't replace him with anybody. And you think, okay, so we just got the strikers who got relegated from League One. But Smith knew what he was doing because he replaced him with Morel in the first team, who hadn't been getting a proper run. Morel scored 34 goals in the league, 39 overall. That season went pretty well. So, it's all about how you replace somebody. If you can upgrade a position, then, your retained list is then justified, isn't it? So
exactly. And I think a lot of fans will be questioning if we just bring in like for like, you know what I mean, of these sort of standards of players. So let's hope all the players that have been released, that we bring that League Two quality of player, because there's going to be a lot of teams who are going to be struggling to keep up of good players because the current climate financially from football in general, it's a complete mess. So hopefully we'll be able to capitalize on that.
Well, there's going to be a lot of quality on the market, isn't there? There's going to be a lot of clubs cutting costs, a lot of good players trickling down to levels that never wanted to play in. That's why Carrington ended up with us, because that was after the ITV digital bust and things like that. And, some players will end up playing at a lower level than they want to be. But at least with Wrexham, they'll know that they've got potential to be upwardly mobile and in a project. So hopefully they'll be motivated. I'm happy for Tyler French and Dan Jarvis. Their extensions to their contracts have been triggered. I think that French got less pitch time near the end of the season, and he had a rough time of it at Maidenhead when he had to step in before he saw Johnson. I don't think that should colour the fact that I think he looks like a shrewd signing. He's only young and he's got potential. And I'm glad that he's going to have a chance to develop that with us.
Yeah.
And
there's a player in Tyler French, I think, and the fact that he can play right back and centre back really helps us, especially if maybe the new man wants to come in and play the back four. I think Tyler French at our level would be maybe just as good in a back four as Reece Johnson.
It's
of
good,
course, fantastic.
I think as well in those sort of positions. A tough away game, French can play. You have a game where you want to get at people. Hall Johnson can play. I'm not saying either of them can't do the other job, but you have that variety as well as just cover. So that's good. I think. And then Jarvis, well, I mean, he's had a frustrating time with it this season, but the fact is he showed this season, that he had real quality. And particularly when he had Davis Keeler-Dunn playing with him and as a two attacking positions in a box midfield, and he could link with him, link with Ponticelli, three intelligent young players who, their academy education was clear in the way that they interplayed. And, it'd be nice to see what he can do, if we're able to bring in players who of the same ilk, maybe, who can combine with him. It'd be nice to see what he can do.
And I think Jarvis I think he's got a lot of technical quality. He's great on the ball. But I think a lot of times when a lot of the fans are really pining for him to started and sometimes not been as effective as what people thought he could be. So, I think this is really his time to prove that he's good enough to play for us.
Absolutely. So there's some interesting questions to be answered by the players who are staying, and a real opportunity for them to grab this and make themselves important as this club moves forwards. We're going to move forwards now. We're nearly finished, but we are going to have a little chat after this with you about stuff you might expect from us in the coming weeks, because just because the football ends doesn't mean the Dragonhearting ends.
I'm Kerry Evans, and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio Show.
All right, so let's put last season into a little draw and leave it there for now. But Dragonheart's not going to stop there. Next weekend, of course, European Championship starts, and so we're going to keep going. We're still going to talk about Wrexham stuff, obviously. I rather think there's going to be a lot of things going on in the next few weeks, but we'll also be devoting some time to the European Championships, especially the Wales games. Che?
Oh, I can't wait. So excited now. Now the Wrexham season's over. Can forget about this season now and get in some fun times. I think supporting Wales at the moment, it's the most fun I've ever had in my lifetime supporting Wales, and it's really great that we're going to another major tournament and hope we can be competitive in a really, really tough group.
Yeah, absolutely. The European Champions gives us a chance to sort of have a stab at some other areas we've not really talked about as well. You were asking me about Wales against the USSR. That was a game I was at. Maybe we could talk about some old Welsh matches too. And touch with that as well. In fact, if I could do the call out right now, please chip in on Twitter. I'll put the question up in a moment once we finish this recording. But what's been your favourite Welsh memory, Wales football memory? Your favourite game? It can be anything. It can be because it was a fantastic game. It can be because there's something weird that happened. It could even be like me with that Soviet Union game, because I sat next to a bloke who fought for a world boxing title. Who knows? Anything you want. But tell us about that, and we'll chat about some classic Wales memories next week. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I get practice.
It's going to be great.
Spanish pronunciation as well.
It's going to be brilliant because it's going to be nice covering the upper echelon of football, the pinnacle of football, rather than, us playing Italy. It's going to be a different sort of experience for me doing podcasting. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love international talk anyway. I think it's always great fun. Absolutely.
So we'll do Copa America at the same time, yeah? 5 games in a day. That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Marcelo Bielsa will be sleeping in the next 5 weeks. Why should we?
Yeah, you'll be getting the Lucozade down there.
Yeah. Also, and keep your eyes peeled, because we'll launch this before next week's episode. We'll push it a lot then as well. And thank you very much to regular listener Tim Lewis for suggesting this. You're a legend. We'll start a Dragonheart Fantasy League. So we'll pick one of the Fantasy League competitions and we'll start our own league. And if you want to join us and play against us and see if you can beat us, then good luck with that, because you'll need it. Then we'll keep your eyes peeled in the coming days, because we'll put that code up and you'll be able to join us and you'll have a bit of a laugh over that as well. So that should be fun, shouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. Should be great.
So who's going to win it, Jay? Who's going to win the European Championships?
They're going to do it twice on the bounce. I think Portugal are going to win it.
Oh, France.
I think.
French.
Yeah.
Wow.
France is the obvious one, isn't it? But in a European Championship and a World Cup, there's always a shock, isn't there?
Yeah.
So you never know. Maybe England will win it. They have the squad, don't they, for it this year? I don't think they will, because they always seem to bottle it.
Suck dirty talk. Should be ashamed of yourself, man.
But I think Portugal have some fantastic players. They always seem to rise to the occasion, don't they, as well? So, and if you have Cristiano Ronaldo, I know he's aging, and Bruno Fernandes in your team, and Jota, that's they could win you any sort of game. So I'm putting my hat on Portugal.
The way that they talked about a Portuguese golden generation, which didn't quite achieve what it ought to have done. And yet now, look at the young players, Portuguese players coming through all across Europe. It's frightening. The quality is terrific. And like I said, England have some fabulous young players, as do Wales.
Yes.
Has the tournament come a little too soon for Wales, do you think? Or is it a good stage post for these players to get tournament experience to move on to the next World Cups?
Yeah, I think so. We have a cracking young squad, and I think with Wales, it's just a free hit, isn't it? So if you compare how let's just compare to our near rivals or neighbours, England, I think media help Wales a lot in the fact that we have no expectation. We go to these matches, we're going for a bit of fun and the crack, and I think Wales overachieve in these games against the big clubs. And I think the clubs, countries, where England, on the other hand, they're expected to win everything, and they usually don't because the expectation's so high. I hope we keep that similar sort of vibe. Yeah, and I think we've got some crap young players. We've also got Gareth Bale, who's a match winner. We've got Aaron Ramsey, who's a class player. So yeah, I'm quite hopeful. Hopefully we can get out the groups, but if we don't, just nice to be a part of it, isn't it?
It's a shame it's a tough group, to have.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to come up against a strong side, but to be coming up against as well the likes of Turkey and Switzerland. They're both tournament hardened. The Turks are getting some good young players coming through as well, just when the older generation have dropped off. The Swiss are always tight and organised and always seem to get through to the next rounds. And I'm a little not worried because, I agree with you. I think it's a good hit to nothing, and it'll be good experience whatever happens. I just worry that the idea of the best third place teams going through. Well, it's nice then to have a North Macedonia in your group, because essentially 3 points will probably put you through in third place at least. If you're just able to have somebody you can just batter, then you're laughing. Whereas in our group, it just feels like the sort of group where Turkey, Wales, and Switzerland could be drawing matches. We're a defensive team, we've got a tight team. It just feels like the sort of game where we could be drawing games and then ending up, all on 2 points. I don't know. I hope it's good.
Italy are a class side.
They're
a really good side.
They're developing
they
now.
They could win it this year too. Yeah.
They've come from a bad
crazy
2 years ago, haven't they? Or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So Delhi disaster, but there's some new players coming through for them who are untested in tournaments, but look interesting, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, Turkey and Switzerland, they've all got some quality players, and aren't we playing Turkey in Baku too?
Yeah.
Which will be quite close. Isn't Azerbaijan quite close to Turkey, isn't it? So that could be like a home game for them as well, couldn't it? Which will be...
Mind you, there won't be a lot of fans in, will there, I suppose? The travelling is good.
True.
Sense for them, but then for us, it's good that we're playing Italy last, aren't we? Because, honestly, at any time, never mind when there's COVID, getting a group to be played in Italy and Azerbaijan is absurd. Azerbaijan really is in Asia, isn't it? It's crazy to expect us to do that, but at least we played 2 back-to-back games in Baku and then go to Rome.
Yeah.
Whereas Switzerland and Turkey have got to play, beg your pardon, it's Switzerland, isn't it? Got to play Baku, Rome, Baku. That'd be on a surely better last game.
Oh, but for me as well, I think this multi-city Euro concept an absolute farce as well. It'd be just in one country. And I think in these times, it should be the country that has the best COVID record and is ready to host a tournament. Yeah. So safely. So I think the multi-city thing, especially in COVID times and for the fans, it's a load of nonsense.
It does seem peculiar to me that you're asking fans as well as players to travel long distances across Europe when travel is at best a dubious idea. But hey, since when did UEFA really live in the real world? Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true.
And I suppose, although I agree with you, I don't like this multi-city idea. Well, I certainly don't like it when you get groups like that. When you've got Scotland, Glasgow, and London hosting a group, all right, I can live with that. But I suppose you could argue things could be worse, because I'm sure you've seen that the Copa America is in Brazil. That starts on the same day as the European Championships. But it wasn't supposed to be in Brazil. It was supposed to be co-hosted by Argentina and Colombia. I beg your pardon. No, Argentina and it was Colombia, wasn't it? So you're talking about between capital cities about 6,000 miles. So going to America and back. And I say the capital cities. I mean, in a way, I'm being generous to them because Buenos Aires is right up northern Argentina. So if you go down further south, it's going to be obviously even more distance. So, compared to that, the Europa games just a few games in the backyard, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true. But I also do believe in the one country hosts it, and it's like a good way to celebrate this certain country's culture, and everyone getting together and singing songs and all these different countries melting, potting together. I know it's not right in COVID time, but in other times, I think that's how a tournament should be, really.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's the right principle, I think, isn't it? So
yeah.
Anyway, we'll be giving you our opinions on it as well. My goodness, we just keep on giving, don't we?
Oh, it doesn't stop. The season stops, but Dragonheart keeps roaring on.
Absolutely. As they say in The Simpsons, like the painting of a clock, it never ends. Painting of a clock? I think I got a Simpsons quote wrong. I feel ashamed now. Ah, well, never mind. And so, this is quite a poignant and emotional moment for me. I guess for the last time, we have to hand over to Jay Harris for his Hollywood send-off.
This is Jay Harris, and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio.